This tutorial is for this Zippered Letterman's jacket, and there are so many good lessons in this tutorial. This is worked like a top-down raglan, but we're knitting it in pieces so that we can have the sleeves be a separate color. Because of that, we're going to learn how to seam these together. We're going to learn how to combine the two fronts and the back to knit the body all in one piece. We're going to learn how to do this Fair Isle detail at the bottom. And we have I-cord edging all over this sweater, so we're going to learn how to do I-cord edging along the sides of the front around the zipper here and at the bottom, in the bottom of the sleeves. We will also learn how to put a zipper into a cardigan like this. And then last, we'll learn how to pick up stitches around the collar and work a short row collar that gives us this stand-up tapered collar. So lots of good lessons. If you've made it to the first part of the lesson, you've probably decided on what colors you want for the body of the sweater and the sleeves. And to get started, we're going to be using the main color, or the body of the body color of the sweater. We're going to cast on for the back and the two fronts separately, and then join them together after we've done the increases. Like I said before, this is a raglan style sweater, but we're going to be knitting it in the separate pieces and seaming it together to make it easy since we're doing the sleeves in a different color. Let's take a closer look. Here is my itty bitty sample. And you'll see here we have the fronts and the sleeve. This sleeve is not attached yet. And then the back. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate pieces. We're going to start first casting on here for the back, and then we will knit up to the underarm point, then cast on for each of the fronts, knit them separately, and then we'll be joining them all together. Now to do this, we're going to need to maintain an I-cord edge, which is where the zipper is going to go. We're going to learn how to do that on both the right and left sides. And you'll also need to do make one stitches to get the increases down here for the arms on both the fronts and the back. So your pattern will spell all this out, how they all go together. I'm just going to show you the techniques right now. Okay. Now the first technique you'll be using on the back is a make one stitch. And the make one is a 1 stitch increase, and I'm going to show you how to do make one left first. Now, you'll knit up to the place where you need to do a make one, and then if you look between 2 stitches, there'll be an obvious bar. You want to pick up that bar from back to front, from front to back with the left needle. Let me show you that again. There's the bar. I'm going to pick it up from front to back with the left needle, and then I'm going to take the right needle and knit it through the back loop, like that. I'll show you that again. This is a make one left. There's the bar between the 2 stitches. I'll pick it up front to back and knit it through the back loop. Whoops. If it's tricky to get the needle in there, you're working the make one correctly. Now to do a make one right, it's kind of just the opposite. Same bar, but you're going to pick it up from back to front, and you're going to knit that loop through the front. Normally, it's hard to get your needle in there, like I said. But if it's hard to get your needle in, you're putting the correct twist on the stitch. Okay, so again, with the make one right, pick it up back to front and knit it through the front loop. And I'm going to create some slack on the stitch there with my first finger so I can more easily get the needle in. Okay, now the I-cord edging is what you're going to need to be working on both the front pieces. And I'm kind of starting in the middle of the row here, but the technique is the same. You'll be doing it on the edge, on the right and the left edge, depending on which piece you're working. On the right side, it says slip 3 with yarn in back. So you always slip as if to purl. 1, 2, 3. So your yarn's in back, you slip 3, and you knit the next one. And what that does, pretending we're at the edge of the work here, that bunches those stitches up and kind of rolls them and gives us this rolled edge here. And then, well, let me knit across this. On the wrong side of the work, you're going to slip 3 with yarn in front. So your yarn's hanging out here in front because you're on the purl side. Slip 1, 2, 3, and purl the next stitch. And again, that's going to give us the nice rolled edge. Those are the techniques you need to work the back piece and the 2 fronts. And next up, we're going to talk about combining those pieces onto one needle to knit them all together for the body of the sweater. Now you've finished knitting the 3 pieces, the 2 fronts and the 1 back, and you've finished the raglan increases, and now we're ready to join all those into one long piece of knitting around the whole body and knit the rest of the body down. Let's take a look at what we have. In my itty bitty sample pieces here, you'll see I have the 3 pieces that look like this. The increases are here on this side and the rolled edges are here on the outside. We left the left front attached. I've already slid the back stitches onto the circular needle. And you don't have to use a circular needle for this, but it is, especially if you're knitting the woman's size, it is a lot of stitches, so circulars hold the stitches nicely. Now here I've got my right front on this piece of scrap yarn. I need to slide it on with the rest of them. And this is a simple thing, but I messed it up the first time. Make sure that your flat edges, the rolled edges, are on the outsides like this, and the increase edges are here like this. I actually had, I had these 2 pieces mixed up, and I had to stop and do another take to get it right. It's just one of those things you think would be really simple, and you can still mess it up. So I'm sliding the needle in to these stitches held on the scrap yarn to get them on the needle, and I'm really confident that it's going on there correctly this time. Oops. I'm tugging on the scrap yarn to get the final stitch to come out because it got buried. Okay. Now that that's all on there, I can get rid of the scrap yarn. Now this is all on here, arranged properly with the increases on the inside and the rolled edges on the outside. And now I'm just going to start knitting across, and we're going to join them all together on this first row. I'm going to maintain this I-cord edging, so I'll slip 3 with yarn in back and knit up across this piece. I have to hold the yarn a little bit differently because I have a band-aid on my finger today. Now, when you get up to the end of the left front, of course you have a gap between these 2 pieces, we need to do the backwards loop cast on, to cast on a few stitches before we start knitting the back. And to do that, you take the yarn in your left hand with your thumb on the yarn like this, flip it, and just slide it onto the needle. And you'll follow your pattern to tell you how many you need to cast on. Okay, that's the technique. And then you just keep knitting across these back stitches with no break. So everything's a little, I don't know, wobbly right now because it's not very secure. But when you purl back across these stitches, the backwards loop cast on stitches will just be like all the rest of the stitches and not be weird like that. So you'll knit across the back. When you get to the gap between the back and the front, you'll cast on more stitches here and then continue knitting across the right front. And then on the purl side, from here on out, it's really easy knitting. The beginning of every purl row, you'll slip 3 with yarn in front to maintain the I-cord edging, and then the beginning of every knit row, you'll slip 3 with yarn in back, and you'll just keep knitting the body until the pattern tells you to stop, until you get to the desired length. One thing to consider when you're deciding on length, of course you want to decide on a length that's going to be flattering on you, but this is something I think about. Because this is a zippered cardigan, we are going to need to buy a standard size zipper to put in there. There are videos out there telling you how to shorten a zipper to the exact size you need it. I've never done that before. I always modify the length of the sweater an inch, a half inch, whatever it needs to be so that a standard zipper will fit. And next up, we're going to learn how to do the fair aisle at the bottom of the sweater. The fair aisle is going to be about 1 3/4 inches long. So take that into consideration when you're deciding the length of the sweater, plus the extra fair aisle and the I-cord bind off for your total zipper length. Or you can just shorten the zipper and not be as lazy as I am about it. Next up is the fair aisle. The little design, the diamond pattern design at the bottom of the sweater is knit using a technique called fair aisle, where we use 2 different colors at once to create a pattern. And there are a couple of tricks to make it look really good. Let's take a look at the fair aisle first. In my little sample here, the 2 colors aren't really high contrast. I hope you can see the pattern okay. The colors that I chose for the women's size sweater is a higher contrast. But this is what it looks like. The blue diamonds are just knit in with the gray work, and we have what are called floats on the back of the work. Whatever color we're not using just floats behind the other color that appears on the front. So I have a little sample knit up here. This is what the pattern's going to look like, your chart. And the way to read this chart is skip the very bottom row here. Every right side row you're going to read this way, meaning every knit row. And every purl row you're going to read from left to right. And that's how you're going to maintain the pattern. So we're going to start out, well, I've already done a little of the pattern. You'll start out with, of course, main color, main color, main color, main color, then a contrasting color, and just follow the blocks, each block being a stitch. And once you get the first row done, you'll have the hang of it, no problem. Here is my little sample. I've already, whoops, let me pull this back in the shot. I've already worked up through this row, which was a wrong side row. Now I'm ready to come back, oops, went this way. So now I'm ready to work this way on a right side row. And let's take a look. You will, of course, be maintaining the I-cord edge. So you'll be slipping 3 with yarn in back and then knitting 1. So I'll do it too. And then my pattern has me knit a gray, knit 5 blues, and now I'm going to go back to gray. And this is where the technique comes in. I'm going to put my needle in like I'm ready to knit with the blue, but drop the blue yarn, spread the stitches out on the right needle, because we want this float that's going to, the gray float that's going to be coming across all these stitches to be nice and loose. So by stretching those out, you make it a little longer so it'll be nice and loose. So I'm going to knit a gray, drop the gray yarn, and this float is much shorter, so you don't have to be so careful about it. It's only going behind 1 stitch. Knit 5 blue again, I'm going back to gray. So I'm going to put my needle in, stretch the stitches on the right needle out, drop the blue, grab the gray, float it across and knit with it. Drop that. Now one other thing I've been doing here is I've been careful to always keep the blue yarn on top and the gray yarn on bottom. I always grab the blue from the top and the gray from the bottom. And that's because whatever color is on top is going to be the dominant color in the pattern. And we want the blue to really stand out against the gray background, so I'm going to keep this on top. whichever you do, just make sure you're consistent with it. Okay, that was my last 5. So now the rest of these are all gray. And this is a little trick here. I've never seen it done any other way. I made this up to keep my stitches looking even. I'm going to go back to gray now, so I stretched out my stitches and did this. I'm already considering the following row. My blue is coming out of here, and my next blue one coming back the other way is going to be here. So the yarn's going to be pulling from the wrong direction. The yarn's going to twist this stitch on the next row. Let me just show you how to fix it. I knit one gray, and before I knit the next gray, I'm going to wrap the gray over the blue, just to grab the blue over this way so that the yarn will be pulling from this way on the next row. If this is difficult to understand, if you don't do it, you'll see the problem that it causes, and then you'll understand. So I'm just lopping the gray over the blue without my first finger here with the Band-Aid, and I'll knit across to the end, and I'll show you what that looks like on the other side of the work. I just grabbed this blue yarn one stitch over. It doesn't show anything on front, it just looped over itself in the back. I call it catching the yarn. And then we're going to maintain the I-cord border on this side. And continue the pattern in Fair Isle, doing the same thing we did on the knit side, meaning when I switch to a color, I'm going to slide these stitches wide on the right needle and work that color. Anyway, you get the idea. The pattern looks really cool. I love knitting Fair Isle. Next up, we're going to learn how to do the I-cord bind off for the bottom of the sweater and the bottom of the sleeves. We've been working an I-cord border on the front of the sweater where the zipper goes, and now we're going to continue the I-cord border and the bind off at the bottom of the sweater, and we're going to make it so it just goes seamlessly right around a corner. Let me show you what it looks like on the sample piece. Here we are. I could block this out better. So this one's more rounded than this one, but I can block that out to make those match a little better. This is the I-cord border. We're going to slide right into the bind off with I-cord like this, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Here's my sample piece. To work the I-cord border, it's a little slower than a normal bind off. You knit 2, you slip the next stitch as if to knit, then you knit 1. The stitch that you slipped, the second one in, you bind it off over that last stitch or slip it over, and then slide those 3 stitches back onto the left needle. So that was the pattern. So it's knit 2, slip as if to knit, knit 1, pass the slip stitch over, and slide those 3 stitches back onto the left needle. And when you have the I-cord border running this way, it will slide right into the I-cord border for the bottom in the bind off. The I-cord bind off at the bottom of the sleeves is going to be the same technique. The only difference is you're going to cast on 3 stitches using the backwards loop cast on method before you get started. Since we don't really want a rounded corner on the sleeves, we want it to be flat in that part. Next up, we're going to talk about the sleeves. I'm sure you did fine on the first part of the sleeves by yourself without a video because it ends up being just like knitting the back. The numbers are a little bit different, but the the pattern of increasing, casting on and increasing, is just like you did for the back. No I-cord edging or anything. Now we're at a point in the sleeve where we want to start knitting it in the round. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is a full-size sample. The other samples I've been showing you are itty-bitty size, but I did this in full size so that we can use the 16-inch circular needle to do this. Now your piece looks like this. It's a big flat piece of knitting. And back to the tiny sample, we want it to look like this, where it's not connected here, and then the rest of it is all joined in the round like a normal sleeve. So I've knit up to the point where it's time for me to join in the round. The first thing I'm going to do is to use the backwards loop cast on to get some stitches cast on here. And this is just like we did under the arms when we joined the pieces of the body. You'll follow your directions. You'll follow the pattern for the number that you need to cast on. And then knit these stitches. And backwards loop cast on stitches are trickier to knit than normal stitches because they want to tighten up on you. You'll follow your directions because I also tell you where to place a marker. You're going to knit a few in on those cast on stitches and place your marker. Okay, now this is my last cast on stitch, so this should start going faster now. We're not going to be doing any purling anymore because the right side of the work is going to be facing us all the time. And we have quite a few stitches here, so we can speed through this part. Okay, I'm just coming up to the end of my row. I knit the last one in the row. Now instead of turning the work and working a purl side, we're going to keep working across, which will join this in the round. Now when I use the working yarn over here to knit this stitch, there we are. Slip the marker and just keep going. Now it is joined in the round and you'll knit the rest of the sleeve as a tube. You'll want to follow your pattern because there are some decreases. As the arm goes down, it decreases down, and then we have another I-cord bind off at the end of the sleeve. And next up, we are going to talk about seaming the sleeves into the body of the sweater. Now that all the pieces are finished, it's time to seam the whole thing together. You have finished knitting 2 sleeves and they're ready to seam into the body of the sweater. Let's get right into it. On the little sample piece here, I already have 1 sleeve seamed in and 1 is still detached. Well, this is going to be really nice, easy seaming because this is going to line up 1 for 1. It's not like putting a sleeve cap in where you're matching up rows to stitches. This is going to match up really nicely. I like to use these little clippy markers like this. You can also use the uncoiled safety pins, whatever you like. I like to match things up before I seam. I suppose it's like putting pins in when you're sewing. Okay. This is such a tiny little sweater. I'm just going to put 4 clips in. I'm sure I used more than that when I did the woman's sweater. Okay, then I need my tapestry needle and some yarn. You can pick either the main color or the contrasting color. the yarn's not going to show. Now I'm going to have to actually take out one of these clips. I'm going to start up here at the collar edge. And the first thing I'll do is attach my yarn to one side. Now you can see here, these are the stitches going up to, or this is the cast on row. You want to pick up the last stitch of the cast on row here. Just go into the corner, pull it through, leave yourself enough of a tail to weave in later, and go through the same hole again. Whoops. My yarn split and got pulled through twice. Okay, let's try that again. Leaving myself a tail, going back up into the same hole again, holding on to the tail end this time. That's good. Now I'm going to go into the last stitch of the cast on row over here on the sleeve. Just go through there, and that's good enough. Now the two pieces are attached at the very edge row here. Now we're going to use the mattress stitch to do this, but we're kind of doing it at an angle, which isn't really going to make much of a difference. You want to make sure you're looking at the very edge stitch, the V's at the very edge. You want to skip that stitch and look at the column between look at the stitches between the first column and the second column. And you'll see a bunch of ladders in there. You want to pick up the first two ladders that you see over here on this side. Pull your needle through. Don't pull it tight yet. Jump over to this side, find the edge stitch, skip that first column. You don't have to pull the stitches apart like this, but I like to do it to get started. Because the first two, you really want to get it right. There is my column. I'm going to pick up two ladders over here, and don't pull it tight yet. I'm going to jump back over to the gray side. I'm going to go, this is where it gets easier, because I can go in where I came out last time, pick up two ladders, and then jump over the other side, go in where I came out last time, pick up two ladders, and now it's easy. Especially on the gray part, it's easier to see the stitches than it is on the blue. Pick up two ladders, go in where I came out. Now, there are a couple reasons that I leave it loose. One is that it's easier to see where your last stitch came out of, so you know exactly where to go in for the next one on each side. The other is that I love this magic moment right here. Ta-da! I love leaving at least an inch or so that I can see how beautiful it is all at once. And then when I go, I usually leave about that much and then tighten it up, and then I actually loosen up the last stitch so it's easy to see where I'm going in to pick up the next ones. And just keep going. And it'll match up one for one. You'll seam, I usually seam to the bottom here and then go back to the top, start up here at the top again and go down, and then have it meet under the arm. It doesn't matter, you can keep going all the way around if you like. That's how to seam the sleeves in. Next up, we're going to talk about the collar. We are almost there. We're just doing the finishing work now, and it's time to work the collar. And I have the full-size sweater here. Let me show you of the finished collar. And we're going to pick up stitches around the neckline and then knit the collar right on. And this is a collar that uses short row wrap and turns to create this edge. And then, oops. Then we have a row where we actually knit on the purl side that creates a fold, and we knit the other side. And then the very last thing we do is we seam that side down in the inside of the sweater, and the two sides are exactly the same, so it folds over very neatly and seams right in. First, to pick up and knit, I'm going to need some yarn for this. Here's my little sample. And I'm going to start here on the, what is this? This is the right front of the sweater. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at the cast on row here, and it's a series of V's, right? You're going to put your needle in to the first V that you see, both legs of the V, and then take your yarn and just wrap the needle. This is like knitting with one needle. You want to leave yourself about a 6-inch tail. Wrap it and pull it through. Go into the next V. Wrap the needle and pull it through. Whoops. Lots of tension on the working yarn will make it easier to, I can't do it. Wrap it and pull it through. I'm snagging something else. There we go. Into the next one. Wrap it and pull it through. You'll follow your directions, but we're picking up just about 1 stitch for every cast on of the 2 fronts, the back, and the sleeves. It's slightly fewer than the cast on number because some of the stitches got eaten up in the seams. But this is what it'll look like. You can do this on a circular needle or on double pointed needles. And you'll follow your pattern, you'll pick them all up, and then we're going to start doing short rows. I have a different sample here to really show this. You'll follow, this is going to show you the technique of wrapping and turning and picking up wraps. You'll follow your pattern up to the point where it tells you to do a wrap, and I'm going to do one here. And to do a wrap on the knit side, we're going to yarn forward, slip the stitch from the left needle to the right, yarn back, and slide that stitch back over to the left needle, and turn the work. Now we're ready to work a wrong side row. One more time. On the knit side, you yarn forward, slip the stitch from the left needle to the right, yarn back, slip it back over, and turn the work. Then you'll follow your pattern and purl up to the next wrap you need to do. And here we are. So on the purl side, I'm going to yarn back, slip the stitch, yarn forward, slip it back over to the left needle, and turn the work. Let me undo that and show you one more time. On the purl side, we yarn back, slip, yarn forward, slip, and turn the work. And what that does is it creates a little wrap around the bottom of the stitch. Now to pick up those wraps, your pattern is going to tell you to pick up those wraps. You knit up to the first wrap, and here I am, and I can see the wrap right here. I'm going to pick up that wrap, and without twisting it, I'm going to put it up on the left needle and knit that wrap together with the stitch. I'll show you again. Here I am at another wrap. Pick up that wrap, and without twisting it, just put it up on the left needle and knit it together. I'm going to show you how to do the same on the purl side. If I can remember where I put the wraps. There we go. Okay. I can see the wrap easily from the purl side, but I actually want to pay attention on the knit side. So I'm going to turn my work a little bit like this. I want to pick up the wrap on the knit side because we want to keep the knit side of the work looking the nicest. So there's my wrap. I'm going to pick it up without twisting it and purl it together with that stitch. I'll show you that again. Here's my wrap. I'm going to flip the work to the knit side, pick up the wrap, put it up on the needle with that stitch, and purl it together. You'll follow your pattern, but those are the techniques you need to know to be able to work the collar. Other than that, you have to seam the collar down after you fold it on the inside. There's no special seam needed for that. You can actually just kind of whip stitch it together. That's what I did. Just make sure it's straight when you're seaming it down. Next up, final step, the zipper. We're finally ready for the zipper, and putting a zipper in a sweater can be difficult. I've tried it several different ways. I've tried hand stitching it in and machine stitching it in. It seems like every time I do, I end up getting puckering and it's just not quite right, it's uneven, whatever. But I've found a way to do it that actually makes the zipper another knitted piece, so it fits really well in the rest of the work. I learned this from Interweave Knits magazine. I've modified it a little bit, and this is a way that I'm going to put zippers into all my work from here on out. Let's take a look. For this, you'll need this little tool called a knit picker. Let me put it on a background here. It's like a tiny latch hook. It's a little hook and it has this latch on it, and we'll get to be using that here in just a second. You'll also need a zipper, and you'll need a separating zipper. And this one's in black. That's not ideal for me, but I couldn't find one in the right size. So to get this all lined up, we're going to take a look at the inside of the sweater and the purl bumps on the inside. And this is hard to see, so I'm going to show you another sample. We're going to be looking at how these purl bumps, the distance between these purl bumps in a single column. So let's look at something bigger and easier to see. These are much easier to see. This is what I'm talking about, how these line up exactly. Now the reason we're doing this, we're going to make our own ruler. You can do the row gauge and figure out the math and figure out how to do it with the ruler. I don't like doing it that way. I like making my own ruler. So I'm lining up a piece of paper, and I'm going to put little marks on the sheet that line up with the purl bumps. Okay? I'm going to jump over here to the zipper. And I'm going to mark on the zipper exactly where these line up. Because I have a black zipper, I would normally use a Sharpie or something, but Sharpie doesn't show up. I'm using a white colored pencil. Of course, I'd do that all the way up. Now here comes the fun part. You take your knit picker, you put it into the first spot you marked, take your yarn. I would actually want to use gray yarn, but it's what I have here. Loop it around the hook, close up the latch, and pull it through. Now you have a loop there. You want to take a needle, I have a DPN here, the same size as what you knit the sweater with, and tighten up that loop. We're just doing that for size. Take that needle out, grab the knit picker again, open the latch, put it through that loop, poke it down into the next spot you marked. Grab the yarn, close the latch, pull it through, and pull it through the last loop you have. Put your needle in there to tighten it up. Oops, I'm splitting the yarn. And make sure you really tighten it up so that it's tight on the back as well. In through the loop, open the latch, in through the loop, down into the next one, wrap it, close the latch, pull it through both. Needle in there, tighten it up, make sure it's tight on the back. I'll do one more. Okay, you can see what we have here. It's a series of V's, just like a cast-on row or a bind-off row. That's going to make it really easy to seam into the sweater. And what I mean by that is you're going to need your tapestry needle again. And you'll have finished this all the way up, of course. You can separate the zipper and do this in pieces. Now, because we measured using these purl bumps, you can pick up 2 of these purl bumps and then go through 1 V of the sweater. And you know that's not going to pucker. You know that's a match because you made your ruler out of these purl bumps. Go into the next 2 purl bumps, or under them, I mean. And then go under the next V. And tighten that up. Under the next 2. It gets tricky through the Fair Isle part, so pay attention to what you're doing. And then grab that over here. That's it. You tighten that up. You'll want to, I didn't pay attention to where I was placing this, you'll actually want to pick up the bumps closer to this, so just a tiny bit of the zipper is exposed there. All the way up, and the other side, of course. Once you get the zipper put in, the sweater is finished. Aside from blocking, you're going to want to really block out the zipper part and the Fair Isle part, because those are going to benefit the most from being washed and laid out flat to dry. Good luck.